Machiavelli taught that generosity weakens rulers faster than cruelty ever could. Stop handing out pieces of yourself. Every time you do, someone learns they can take more. And each time you give without calculation, you silently announce that your value is negotiable, your boundaries are soft, and your resources can be drained without consequence. You think generosity makes you admired. In reality, it exposes you as someone who doesn't understand power. And people never respect what comes without resistance. You've been taught that giving is noble, but you were never taught the cost. A reputation for generosity becomes a leash around your neck. The moment people sense you're willing to solve their problems, they start manufacturing new ones to hand to you. They test how far you'll bend, how much you'll sacrifice, how quickly you'll abandon your own priorities to save theirs. They watch what you tolerate and adjust their demands accordingly. You think you're earning loyalty. You're only training dependence. The modern world glorifies selflessness, but only because it benefits takers. Generosity is praised because it creates predictable victims, people who can be guilted, manipulated, and drained with a single emotional tug. You become the one who covers the bill, the one who lends without repayment, the one who rescues everyone from their own irresponsibility. You become the solution to problems that were never yours. And once you fill that role, you're no longer seen as a person. You're an asset to be used. People don't remember how much you gave. They remember how much they can still take. And if you think you're the exception, look at your own life. Think of the time someone asked you for help and you felt obligated because you didn't want to disappoint them. Think of how often you said yes while grinding your teeth. Think of the resentment that built in silence because you didn't want to appear selfish. That silence is what destroys you, not their requests. Your refusal to enforce boundaries is the real weapon pointed at your financial throat. Powerful people avoid generosity for one reason: it traps them in expectations. Once you give freely, the world stops seeing it as generosity. It becomes your duty. It becomes the minimum standard. And when you stop, they don't thank you for what you already provided. They punish you for what you no longer give. This is why Machiavelli warned rulers never to rely on generosity as a path to influence. It corrodes authority. It consumes resources. And it breeds a population that sees your kindness as a weakness they can exploit. You must understand the psychological mechanism behind this. Humans anchor themselves to patterns. If you give twice, they assume you'll give a third time. If you say yes repeatedly, your no becomes an insult. People don't measure fairness, they measure consistency. And once you establish a pattern of generosity, you're no longer rewarded for it. You're chained to it. Every yes costs more. Every no triggers conflict. Your intentions don't matter. Only their expectations do. So ask yourself, who conditioned those expectations? You did. You created the version of yourself that people depend on, drain, or manipulate. You engineered your own exhaustion, your own financial strain, your own resentment, and now you're paying the price for a reputation you never meant to build. If you want to reclaim control, you must break the pattern before it becomes your identity. The truth is simple. Generosity is only respected when it's rare. People value what is scarce. They value what's deliberate. They value what has a cost. When you give without calculation, you turn your own resources into something cheap. Money loses weight. Time loses importance. Effort loses meaning. You train people to believe you can always offer more, so they never fear losing access to you. They don't protect your energy because they were never taught to. Hold your generosity until the moment has strategic value, then release it with precision. That's how powerful people give. They don't give to appear kind. They give to influence outcomes. They give to shape loyalty. They give to test character. They give because they choose to, not because they're cornered by guilt or obligation. Their generosity is a tool, not a habit. And because it's rare, it demands attention. Look at your relationships. Who is there because of you, and who is there because of what you provide? When you strip away the benefits you offer, who stays? Who respects you when you draw a boundary? Who disappears when you stop being convenient? These answers reveal who sees you as a person and who sees you as a service. You must stop rewarding people with access they didn't earn. Not everyone deserves your time. Not everyone deserves your advice, your support, your money, or your emotional labor. You don't owe anyone your sacrifice. And if someone makes you feel guilty for protecting your resources, that's your first sign they never valued you, only your usefulness. This is why December destroys people like you. The pressure to give, to spend, to provide, to prove yourself multiplies. You're surrounded by social traps disguised as tradition. Expectations rise. Obligations multiply. People stretch your goodwill because they know the season shields them. You become the reliable giver, the dependable rescuer, the financial punching bag who's expected to act generous even when your own needs are bleeding. But this year must be different. This year, you reclaim control. You stop confusing generosity with virtue. You stop buying affection. You stop proving your worth through sacrifice. You start thinking like someone who understands power, because power is built through discipline, not self-erasure. Your money is not a tool for pleasing others. It's a weapon for securing your future. And every time you give impulsively, you disarm yourself. You weaken your defenses. You limit your options. You let emotion override strategy. Machiavelli would call this the fastest route to ruin, allowing kindness to outrank intelligence. So you must adopt a colder standard. You give when it strengthens your position, and you refuse when it weakens it. You don't explain. You don't apologize. You don't justify. You let your silence define the boundary. If people interpret it as coldness, let them. Their feelings aren't your responsibility, and anyone who demands your resources doesn't deserve them. Never forget, respect grows from controlled scarcity. When people know you won't always say yes, they choose their requests carefully. They don't waste your time. They don't drain your energy. They don't toy with your patience. They learn that access to you is valuable, not guaranteed. And once they see that, the balance of power shifts. Imagine a chessboard painted in deep crimson. Pieces stand still, waiting. The weakest players move impulsively, quick to give up pieces they should protect. Pawns volunteer themselves. Knights leap without thought. But the strongest piece remains still until the moment has real consequence. That's how you must treat your generosity, not as a reflex, as a calculated move. Now imagine another scene. You're at a family gathering. Someone hints about their financial struggles, staring at you longer than necessary. The room expects you to volunteer help. They've seen you play this role before, but this time, you don't fold. You hold your posture. You hold your silence. You let their expectation collapse under its own weight. The power in the room shifts instantly. They don't see you as a resource anymore. They see someone they can't manipulate. This is the transformation generosity steals from you. When you stop giving instantly, your presence gains gravity, your boundaries sharpen, your value rises. You stop being predictable, and predictable people are always the easiest to exploit. You must decide now, will you continue being drained by obligations you never chose, or will you become the kind of person who guards their resources with intelligence and purpose? If you hesitate, someone else will decide for you, someone hungrier, someone colder, someone who understands that money is security, leverage, and survival. The world rewards those who protect what is theirs, and it punishes those who don't. If you want the power you keep imagining, stop giving it away. You've spent too long mistaking generosity for strength. Strength isn't in what you give. It's in what you refuse to surrender. Wealth is protected by boundaries, and poverty is created by their absence. Every time you give impulsively, every time you sacrifice your resources to prove you're good, you carve out another piece of your future and hand it to someone who won't remember your name the moment you stop feeding their expectations. People never ask themselves why a generous person is so easy to approach. They already know the answer. Because you won't fight back. Because you'll fold under guilt. Because your silence is softer than their entitlement. They don't come to you because they admire you. They come because you've trained them to believe you'll always absorb the cost. Stop thinking generosity is noble. In the Machiavellian view, Generosity without calculation is a public announcement of weakness. It tells the world you don't understand power dynamics. It tells the world you're eager to win approval. It tells the world that you'll compromise your financial security just to avoid disappointment. Every generous act becomes a signal that you're safe to exploit, and once you're placed in that category, escaping it becomes a war. People pretend generosity is a moral virtue because it protects their interests. They expect you to give freely because they benefit from your lack of discipline. And when you refuse, they frame you as selfish. Not because you are, but because your refusal denies them a resource they believed they owned. That's not morality. That's entitlement disguised as ethics. Observe what happens when you draw a line. Suddenly, the people who praised your kindness accuse you of changing. They guilt you. They pressure you. They attack you. This reveals the truth. They never valued your generosity. They valued the leverage it gave them. When the leverage disappears, so does their affection. If you want power, you must treat generosity as a controlled asset, not a personality trait. You give strategically. You give in moments that strengthen your influence, your reputation, or your alliances. But you never give out of pressure, guilt, or fear. You never give because someone expects it. You never give to avoid discomfort. People respect boundaries they can feel, not boundaries they can negotiate. Control your giving or your giving will control you. This is where wealth is either built or destroyed. Wealth is not created only through earning. It's protected through refusal. You can make more money, but you can never reclaim what you gave to people who didn't deserve it. You can rebuild your finances, but you can't repair the respect you lost by giving too much, too often, too easily. The mechanism behind this is simple. When people perceive you as endlessly giving, they stop believing your resources are limited. They assume you can always offer more. They don't think about your responsibilities or your goals. They think about their convenience. They believe your sacrifice is part of the natural order. You must break that illusion. Generosity must be redefined, not as kindness, but as strategy. You give to test loyalty, to build alliances, to influence outcomes. You give rarely, precisely and only when the return is measurable. You give the way a ruler deploys soldiers, only when the cost is justified by the objective. And the moments you choose not to give are even more powerful. They teach people that access to your resources is conditional. They teach people your approval has a price. They teach people you cannot be bent by emotional manipulation. These lessons form the backbone of authority. Now consider how you operate in your daily life. How often do you buy peace instead of earning respect? How often do you volunteer your time to someone who wastes it? How often do you give money or effort because you fear conflict more than you value your boundaries? This is the psychology of the broke, not because they lack intelligence, but because they lack confrontation. The world is structured around confrontation, not violence, but clarity. You must be willing to say no without explanation. You must be willing to disappoint people who impose themselves on your time. You must be willing to protect your focus even if others label it arrogance. You must be willing to be misunderstood. Those who fear disapproval will always be controlled by those who don't. Think about the last time you helped someone who didn't deserve it. You probably justified it as compassion. But look deeper. Was it compassion? Or was it fear of looking selfish? Was it kindness or fear of conflict? Was it generosity or fear of being judged? Every unnecessary yes is a confession that you're afraid of your own limits. Break this cycle. Stop proving your worth through sacrifice. Your value is not measured by how much you give away. It's measured by how fiercely you protect your resources. Even predators know not to bleed on the ground. Blood invites opportunists. You must stop bleeding for people who would never do the same for you. Wealthy people understand this instinctively. They are not generous by default. They are generous by intention. They give where it multiplies. They refuse where it diminishes. They protect their capital the way rulers protect territory. They don't allow emotional pleas to rewrite their strategy. They see generosity as a tool, not as a virtue to flaunt. And because they guard it, it holds power. Now consider two scenes. In the first, imagine yourself at work. A coworker asks you to cover their responsibilities. Again, they frame it as a small favor. They assume you won't refuse. You've helped before. They expect you to help again. And because you don't want conflict, you accept. They leave relieved. You stay resentful. They gain time. You lose it. This is the transaction of a powerless person. In the second scene, the same coworker approaches you, but this time you don't fold. You look at them with steady silence. You don't justify. You don't apologize. You simply say, "No, I can't do that." They're startled, confused. They reinterpret you instantly, not as a resource, as an equal. Boundaries force respect in places where generosity never could. You must start guiding your life with that energy. There's another dimension to this: the long-term erosion of status. Excessive generosity makes you predictable. Predictability makes you easy to manipulate. Once people know what you'll say, they stop respecting your presence. They don't fear losing access to you because they never imagine you'll walk away. They don't treat your resources as finite because you never enforce limits. And in power dynamics, those who cannot enforce limits are treated as tools. You must cultivate a colder persona, not cruel but controlled. A person who gives rarely but meaningfully. Someone who cannot be guilted into sacrifice. Someone whose boundaries are unmovable. Someone who is not afraid to disappoint. Power respects silence. It respects refusal. It respects scarcity. When you speak less, give less, react less, and reveal less, people lean closer. They think before approaching. They evaluate the worth of their request. They calculate their tone. They become more cautious. And caution is the seed of respect. Your generosity must earn you leverage, not exhaustion. Now step back and look at your life. Ask yourself these questions. Who benefits most from your generosity? Who drains you the fastest? Who pressures you the hardest? Who disappears when you stop giving? Who respects you only when you make yourself useful? These answers reveal your true enemies, not rivals, but parasites. People who can only exist in your life if they're fed by your hesitation to say no. You owe loyalty to those who protect your boundaries, not those who punish them. And here is the ruthless truth. If someone leaves because you stopped giving, they were never with you. They were with the version of you that served them. The moment that version dies, so does their loyalty. Good, let it die. Only then can you build alliances that respect you. You must adopt a strategic protocol. Step 1. Limit your responses. Don't rush to solve problems. Let people handle their own consequences. Step 2. Guard your resources. Time, energy, money. These are your weapons. Use them with intention. Step 3. Give rarely and only in ways that elevate your position. If it doesn't strengthen your leverage, you don't give. Step 4. Enforce silence. You don't defend your boundaries. You don't justify them. You don't debate them. You let your refusal speak. Step 5. Rebuild your identity around discipline, not guilt. People follow those who lead themselves. This is the antidote to weak generosity. Calculated control. You replace impulse with strategy. You replace guilt with clarity. You replace fear with quiet confidence. And slowly, the world starts treating you differently. People become careful. They weigh their words. They respect your time. They don't ask for what they know you won't give. Your presence grows heavier, sharper, more significant. That's the aura of someone who cannot be used. This is your new reality. Generosity becomes a rare blade, not a dull habit. Picture the final scene. You stand alone at the edge of a dark hall. A crimson light spills across the floor. Behind you lies the version of yourself who gave too easily, who apologized for existing, who traded strength for approval. Ahead lies the quieter version, colder, wiser, unbending. You walk forward without hesitation. The old identity falls behind like a discarded mask. If you want power, kill your old generosity now. And if you want more ruthless strategies like this, subscribe. The weak will scroll away. The strong will stay.